this is how valuable a notary services are. I'm so glad that I signed on for that translation service because I think that's going to be a game changer. I did go down to the office, like keep standing up to say, hey. And she's like, I'll be right with you. So she came back and then she started flipping through the document. So I didn't say anything because I wanted to see like if that UPS notarization works, then, I don't have to do that, right? She's like slowly flipping through it. I'm like, oh goodness, she's getting ready to find something. So she's like, I'll be right back. I went and sat down, and a couple minutes later, she said, hey, can you come here for a minute? She's like, who notarized this? And I'm like, not me. And I said, it's a UPS notary. I don't know. The clients went there before they came to me, and then I started this whole process with them. And they said, it was the same person? And I said, to my knowledge, yes. I'm like, it looks like it's the same person, the same, name is on there. And she said, yeah, these signatures don't match. I'm like, what do you mean? And she said, well, we are looking at how the person signed up or the original signature. So notaries, you've got to be consistent with your signatures. And I've heard people say that briefly, vaguely, but she turned that down to say, no, they can't accept this. And I did hear her talk to the other people in that office, and they were like, no, we can't accept that because it doesn't even look like it's a consistent signature. That came out of left field. I was not expecting that. So she said, well, she said, are you a notary? I said, yes, I'm a notary. She said, well, you can do it. I said, yeah, I came prepared for that. I have a copy certification. So she said, well, let me see that. And she said, well, this is a little bit different. We use true copies. So I've heard of that, but I've always used the copy certification, had no issues. So she said, well, we have a form. She said, either I could do it or you can do it. I'm like, you can do it. I said, how much do you cost? She said, oh, I can do it. I'm like, oh, okay, 12. And she was like, yes. And so I said, well, can I see your document? So I got a copy of it, and I'm just going to make my own. And then what was the other issue? There was another issue with the marriage license. She said it wasn't a true certification. I'm like, I think it is. She looked at it and she said, well, there's no embosser or raised seal or impression of that. And I said, oh, but it's a letter attached. And I should have known better because typically that's what I normally get apostille. But the client was like, oh, they said it was okay. And I'm like, So thank goodness in St. Louis, certain counties, you can walk into the office and get a certified copy of your marriage license. So they're going to do that on Monday. And then I'm going to go back down with all 12 documents and get it done. So long story short, do not be afraid or shy to let people know, clients know of other services that you offer. If you hear them talking about apostille or something, and especially if you offer those services, you got to listen, right? Because that could have just flew over my head, and then they would have waited weeks and weeks before they would have gotten that back. And guess what? Because it was not done right, that would have been rejected, and it would have taken more time. And I think they have 3 weeks or a month, but that could have taken that whole time. So moral of the story is to don't be shy to tell people about your additional services.